Hi, I'm Regina from Atlanta,
And I'm Carrie from Oregon.
and we are Wine Sisters of the Vine.
Yes, we are Wine Sisters of the Vine here at King Estate in Eugene, Oregon.
Amazing scenery behind you, my
Oh my
sister.
God. I'm going to pick the computer up and kind of put it over here a little bit so everybody can see where I am out here on the veranda.
That is absolutely breathtaking.
Another tough day at the office. And so excited to be here with the viticultural team from King Estate and some of their fabulous wines. So we have Mel, who's the vineyard manager. Say hey, Mel.
Hi, everyone.
Hey, Mel.
And we have our winemaker, Brent, for King Estate right there.
Hello.
Brent, hi. And Ray, tell me what you'd like to be. You're the viticultural manager, is that correct?
Director of viticulture, yeah.
That's right. I just got it kind of right.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
Thanks for sharing your time with us today, you guys. And we're excited about this, aren't we, Regina?
I'm extremely excited, especially now I have this whole array of wines in front of me. I cannot wait to walk through these and hear more about this amazing vineyard.
Well, what are we starting out with today?
I think we're going to start off with this lovely Pinot Gris. I can't wait to hear more about it.
I agree. So here's the label for that Pinot Gris right here, Paradox.
It's beautiful.
So Pinot Gris is the flagship, one of the flagship grapes, one of the many flagship grapes, but I know that you have quite a reputation for growing the wonderful Pinot Gris. So tell us about your Pinot Gris and the history of the vineyard in general, and planting the Pinot Gris and how that all got started. Why Pinot Gris? Mel,
You guys want to jump in on the vineyard side?
Yeah, sure. I mean, if someone wants to talk about the Pinot Gris, when it was planted and why you chose to focus on Pinot Gris.
I think I want to say one of the reasons why we have why the Pinot Gris does really well here is because here we are at the kind of the south end of the Willamette Valley, which tends to be a little bit cooler than the rest of the valley, and so Pinot Gris does excellent here.
Yes, in the Jory soil too.
Yes, Jory and Belpine soils. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, and yes, it's a really outstanding Pinot Gris, and I'm excited to taste it. So,
And our site is pretty high elevation for a vineyard in the Willamette Valley. There's other vineyards that are at the elevation that we're at, but there's not very many, and it just plays into it gives us really cool nights and keeps the temperature somewhat moderated when we have heat spikes. So it's really a good site for retaining acidity. And in the early history of the vineyard, there was a conscious effort to really plant a lot of Pinot Gris because they did some trials early on, and that was one of the varietals that really shined off of some of the early harvests at the estate. So I think there was a conscious effort to focus on that varietal. While we still are a major producer of Pinot Noir, we are proud that we're probably the one winery that made Oregon known for Pinot Gris as well as Pinot Noir.
Mm-hmm.
And then the only other thing I'd add in is Melitone, being one of our longest tenured employees, took part in a lot of those original plantings. So he can really speak to how much effort was made at getting Pinot Gris established here, because he was getting his hands dirty way back then in the early 90s.
Well, as I'm enjoying this Paradox Pinot Gris, I would love to hear about the trials and tribulation of growing Pinot Gris. What do you think, Mel? What do you think was one of the biggest? I mean, tell us about growing Pinot Gris in Oregon.
actually, so we have Pinot Gris and Pinot Noir, and it's our experience that Pinot Gris is much easier to grow than Pinot Noir. And so, like I was saying, the soil, the climate here, all sets up for growing this variety, the best way we can. We, like I was saying, we have to put a lot of effort also with managing the vines, but I think we have dialed it pretty good here, that we can do it always. You can, year after year, we can do an excellent job at growing it.
There's a complexity, Regina, wouldn't you agree? There's a complexity to this Pinot Gris. And so let's hear from the winemaker. I think that's a great, astute observation too, Mel. And you're lucky that you can finesse Pinot Gris, because not everybody can do it,
Correct.
The taste with this really wonderful balanced acidity.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Brent, you want to tell us a little bit about the paradox?
Sure. Yeah, it's a fun wine to start with. Along with kind of experimenting in the vineyard, those same trials happened in the winery, and this is years ago, for what the winery wanted Pinot Gris to be like in terms of style. Is it going to be sweet? Is it going to be dry? Is it oaked? Is it stainless? Mm-hmm. And what they had settled on, and again, this is 30 years ago. They wanted it to be, a very food-friendly wine, acid-driven, dry wine, and fermented in stainless. So that's been kind of the style that we've stayed true to year over year over year. And I think it really helped carve out a style for Oregon Pinot Gris in general as a category, being one of the first kind of nationally distributed Pinot Gris from Oregon. So it's interesting that we start out with Paradox, because this is the one wine that is not made that way. We call it Paradox because we actually put it in oak. So it's the only wine that we oak age, the only Pinot Gris that we oak age.
That's what I'm tasting. Beautiful. There's the nuance in there. It's toasty. Yeah.
It is toasty.
One. Yeah. So we ferment it like we ferment all the rest of our Pinot Gris. It's first of all, it's 100% estate. We ferment it in stainless steel. We ferment it really, really cool. The goal there is aromatic preservation. So we ferment all the way down about 55 degrees, so you can hold on to a lot of those really pretty aromas, the floral notes, the very complex notes that in a warmer fermentation are going to blow off. And then what makes this wine different is then we put it down to French oak. And we put it down to all new barrels. So it just gets a couple months, because you don't want to overwhelm the wine with oak. But it's basically stainless steel fermented down to 100% French oak for 2 or 3 months, and then bottled. So it's a pretty unique take on Pinot Gris.
It's a wonderful food wine. I mean, it is really lovely.
Yeah, the oak opens it up to some other dishes. The acidity is obviously great, and that's going to do well with any kind of like cream-based dish, food, those kind of things. And then you add in the oak tannin, and again, it becomes kind of a heartier wine that can stand up to even more dishes. So that's kind of what we had in mind when we made it. Like, hey, let's make Pinot Gris, but let's have a kind of slightly different take on it compared to Gris. So
very unique.
It is
lovely,
and it's got that classic, to me, the Pacific Northwest seafood and wine pairing. It just, I feel like a shrimp fettuccine coming on, with the
yes, a little coconut curry, shrimp, yes,
and of course salmon,
of course,
salmon. But yeah, I mean, this is just really a classic with, I think, the added dimension of the stainless too. The whole thing is really a unique wine. I love the Paradox. It's perfect. It is a Paradox. So,
it is.
Yeah. I give that the Wine Sisters stamp of approval.
Oh, for sure. Do you guys have distribution in Georgia at all?
We do.
We do. Okay.
Some of these wines, like Paradox, they're very small production wines. We only make maybe 100 cases a year, and we sell them exclusively out of the winery. but we do have national wholesale brands that are sold in every state. So our King Estate Pinot Gris, our flagship, is available in Georgia.
Okay, I'm gonna have to look that up tomorrow.
Yeah, for your wine store. Regina has a wine store in Georgia, so.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, yeah. So, were you going to talk about the who wants to chat about the biodynamic process in the vineyard? I know all three of you are involved in that, but Ray, you want to throw in your thoughts about biodynamic process in the vineyard and how that can be, and organic and biodynamic? And when I was a little girl growing up on a vineyard, it was we got the tractor out and put the cutting in the ground. So we've come a long way since those days, but we did spray with sulfur. So, we did something right in the early 70s, but now you have this really incredible, vineyard, and it's the largest North American vineyard, biodynamic vineyard, correct? Is that?
Correct.
That is amazing.
Wow.
Yep.
Can you believe that, Regina? Oh my gosh.
That's amazing. So I know we have lots of people, wine enthusiasts, so we get the question all the time, biodynamic and organic. Is it both? What's the difference? Can you talk a little bit about that? And then how do you apply the practice to your own vineyard at King?
Sure. Yeah, I can do that. There's a lot of similarities. In fact, the first step of being biodynamic is that you are following all the organic practices. And so if you're biodynamic, you may or may not be certified organic. We are certified organic here as well. But if you're certified biodynamic just by nature, that implies that you are already meeting all the criteria to be organic as well. So the King family long ago made a commitment to stewardship of the property. And so it's top of mind for them to treat this property like we want to leave it better than before we impacted it. And so they made a commitment early on to organic practices, as well as a number of sustainable things that we do here. So even before we were certified biodynamic, we had already checked off a lot of the boxes that they look for. So, and one of the big things in biodynamics is they really want you to treat the farm as sort of a self-sustaining unit as best you can. So you try to limit how much inputs you bring into the farm from off-site. So rather than buying, say, fertilizer, you're making compost and you're doing cover cropping and things like that to supply the nutrients that you need to grow the grapes. We grow our own cover crop seed here, so we have a pretty extensive property. It's over 1,000 acres, of which only 480 are in wine grapes. So we have lower fields that aren't real suitable for growing grapes. We'll grow cover crop on. We utilize sheep. So another big component of biodynamics is having a livestock component to your operation. Even if you're not growing livestock for sale or a product, you still try to incorporate them into your system. So we'll use sheep in the spring to basically mow out in the vineyard while it's still too wet for us to get equipment out there. So that's very helpful. And a lot of these things we were doing before the family came to us and asked us about taking that next step and getting certified biodynamic. So really, once we made that decision, the main things that we had to incorporate at that point were the biodynamic preparations. So there's a number of preparations that you make and apply to either the soil or the plants themselves, or some of the preparations you actually apply to the compost during the compost making process. And they're mostly plant-based. Some of them are manure-based. One of them is silica-based. And I kind of liken it to homeopathic medicine, where you're using tiny amounts of substances to sort of activate what's going on out in nature already. You're just trying to activate it and kind of supercharge it. And so it's not that you're trying to directly, what you're applying is directly going to the vine. You're applying it out there to the whole system to try to get it functioning at peak efficiency. And so it was pretty easy to shift into biodynamics, given the number of things that we were already doing that biodynamics looks for. Another thing that I would throw out there is, you had mentioned seeing the hawk earlier. And so we tried to, like a lot of vineyards will have problems with various rodents, basically voles and moles. And so we try to promote the raptors on site. We have a relationship with a local kind of raptor rescue, where they get raptors in and bring them back to health. And if they get to the point where they feel like they can release them back out to the wild, they'll bring them out to the vineyard and release them out here. So that's pretty neat. And I guess the other thing I'd say with the incorporating the biodynamics is, they have a real big emphasis on, like I was saying, on site, trying to limit bringing stuff in from off site. And so we do a lot of composting here. All the winery waste gets brought out to the back of the property, and we incorporate manure and usually hay, straw into the compost. So we will produce a good 700-800 tons of compost every year, and that goes right back out into the vineyard. So that goes a long way in keeping our soil fertility up. And those are the big changes that we, some of them we were already doing, and then those were the big things that we had to do to kind of get through the last hurdles to get certified biodynamic.
That's fabulous. And I must say, I was in the vineyard with Mel, looking at the vines, these wonderful vines that were planted in '93. And I have to compliment you on the beautiful dirt. I mean, the soil is really outstanding. I mean, we like good dirt, right, Regina?
We love good dirt. Yes.
It's beautiful, healthy.
Well,
soil.
Good dirt has you can tell it just by smelling it usually. Like worn out ground will just it doesn't smell the same as good dirt.
That's right. So I am so curious to find out more and taste the Four Nobles, our second one, right, Regina?
Yes. This is the Cuvée Blanc, right?
Yeah, I know you were wanting to talk to them about the 4 different grapes that are in here: Pinot Gris, Riesling, Muscat, and Gewurz. Can you believe it?
Oh, wow.
I know. Thus the Four Nobles, and I know this has a Buddhist connotation too to it. There's a lot going on with this label. I love it. So, Mel, you farm all 4 of these sections and then harvest them and then bring them to Brent, and then tell us about the process, the winemaking process with these 4 grapes, because this is an unusual bottle of wine, and I'm so excited. It is unusual.
It's beautiful though.
Yeah, Brent, what are your thoughts?
Very nice.
Yes, it is.
So the backstory there is, we've thought for a long time that there are a lot of similarities with the growing conditions and the varieties that are planted here at our estate, along with kind of Alsatian vineyards. And so these are 4 traditional Alsatian varieties, and to reach kind of Grand Cru status in Alsace, it has to be planted with what they call a noble variety. And so it's called 4 nobles, and these 4 varieties are noble varieties. And so this was really Ed King's idea. He said, we need kind of a true Alsatian white blend made from the estate, farmed biodynamically, and then biodynamically on the winemaking side too, which is very kind of non-intervention. So from a winemaking side, you do very little in terms of manipulating fermentations. It's kind of, you just use temperature, you bring everything in. So the way that Mel brings it up the hill, we get it into a tank, and then we kind of just let nature do its thing. So it's a native yeast fermentation. It's fermented cool again, similar to the Pinot Gris for aromatic preservation, which is really important with some of these varieties like the Gewürztraminer, Muscat that are going to be very floral, almost perfumed. You don't want to lose any of that, right? Because I think that's certainly on the customer, and they're going to be looking for that out of an Alsatian blend. So that's how we did it. We fermented each variety as a standalone wine, and then we blended it together.
Oh, that's how you did it. Clever.
Sorry, excuse me.
That's clever. Yeah, I mean.
Yeah. It's so the Riesling, we have very little planted, as both these guys will attest to. So we have a little basket press that we use for these small lot whites, and so we actually brought the Riesling in. We press it lightly.
Just like in the old days.
Let it sit on the skin. Yeah. So for this kind of terpene extraction from the skins, we let the Riesling sit in the press, and then it goes into a very small kind of stainless, almost drum. So it's definitely kind of boutique level fermentation. Again, this is real small production wine. Gets a lot of love and attention. So it's definitely a favorite in-house of the winemaking team.
It's beautiful. It's very aromatic. I love it.
And you can smell the actual Muscat grape. It's almost as if you just picked a grape and just put in this wonderful honey clover perfume into the beautiful aromatics. I can't keep my nose out of it. I just keep smelling it.
It is.
There's the Alsatian tie-in too. I think that's such a great communal tie with us because our connection to Alsace in the early years, and that we've continued through all these years too. And it's just a really beautiful, it's very harmonious. I like that. There's a harmony with this wine. Yeah. So I think the next question was for you, my wine sister.
Yes. So we've gone through a tumultuous year this past year. So can you talk about, what's been the biggest challenge during the pandemic, and then coming out and getting back to some sense of normalcy?
Yeah, I can jump in on with a little bit of that. Obviously there's been a bunch of challenges. So to just one, I think like everyone on this video, we've all gone through a pretty tough year, whether it be professionally or with our families. It's just definitely kind of stressed everyday life. So we're no different here. A lot of the impacts to wine, when you think about it, it's a very social beverage. It's meant to be consumed around the dinner table or at events, or and so many of those traditional occasions did not happen during the pandemic. So restaurants were closed. A lot of wine obviously is just made to go with food, and so it definitely changed a lot of the traditional kind of channels in wine, and so we had to adjust for that. Our own restaurant was closed for a lot of the year, and tasting room was very limited. So I'd say that those were the very kind of immediate impacts to our business, and that it obviously has kind of this trickle down impact to how we make wines, and certainly inventories and those sorts of things. So, but there was a lot of other impact. I think it was just a tough year on people mentally too. So just keeping morale up. We were kind of an essential business, which. So grapes don't stop growing, and you still have to empty tanks and everything else. And so we didn't really stop the day to day in terms of operations. The show kind of had to go on. But the more I look at it, kind of retrospectively, I think it was a good thing. The kind of continuity of the workplace, the fact that with all this like craziness going on around us, we had the workplace. And it was very very consistent here. The family did a lot. For employees, we had a grocery program that they did every week where they gave us meat and eggs and milk, and to just keep people out of stores. We repurposed our restaurant gardens to create CSA boxes for employees, so we get fresh produce every week. And so I think the company did a lot to kind of create this community and help the employees get through it. So there were these kind of like impacts abroad that we could do very little about in terms of restaurant closures, and then there was kind of the impact right in front of us here. And I think we did a really good job about kind of addressing and making it through as a group.
So you are really self-sustaining on a number of levels. It's not only biodynamic. I get this feeling that that you all support each other in this sort of self-sustaining environment, and the team too. It's nice.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Good group of people.
Yeah. That's a nice story.
And obviously it's a labor of love. So what do you love most about what you do?
I'll let you guys chime in there. Okay. I'm still on the airtime.
I would say what I love about it is every year you get a redo, and you know it's going to be different. A lot, you know, you get comfortable after years of experience, even knowing that it's going to be different. But there's always something interesting that's going to happen, both during the season and especially during crush, when we're processing like crazy. And so the thing I like about it is the cyclical nature of it, the connection with the environment and just the outdoors. And it's just really neat that you get one shot a year, but then you get another shot next year. So, and just how every year it's going to be slightly different. You know, we're really good at making a consistent product, but you know that every year there's going to be subtle differences to the wine that you're making. So that's what I would chime in with.
Every year it's a little bit different bit of delicious.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
The
wonderful.
same, but not the same.
Exactly.
You,
Awesome.
you have that rosé over there, Regina, ready?
Yes.
You want to show us the
It's
label?
a beautiful color. I just love it.
I think that it is with the white label and their beautiful logo too. I love that. That beautiful King Estate logo is really classy and
It's very classy.
so
Let me put it in mine real nice.
you want to tell us what your thoughts are on this, Regina?
So I'm just getting mine open. I had to chill mine a bit. You know, I got home a little bit later.
That's all
I
right.
got delivered a little bit late, so I was trying to get it to chill a little bit. So I did. So I'm opening it now.
Okay. And you know, the Pinot Noir, Mel, when you're growing this Pinot Noir, talk about, I'd like to know your story. I know really kind of matches the trajectory of the growth of 30 years at King Estate, because you started in 1993. And I'm sure one of the first things that you planted was Pinot Noir, right? Or that you worked on was the original Pinot Noir cuttings. And you mentioned and showed me that you guys hybridized on site. You have your own cutting nursery.
Yes, yeah, we have a nursery here, and we made a lot of, most of the vines that you see planted here, what we have like 430,000 vines. Most of those came from the nursery that we have here on site.
Is that amazing, Regina?
That is amazing. I've never heard of such.
Grafting is just amazing on itself. You know, it's like composting. How it's all you know, what you start with and what you end up with is, you know, it's completely different. It's like wine too. Yeah. And so it's the Pinot Noir. It's a little bit more difficult to grow than Pinot Gris, and so that we need to put a little bit more effort in the canopy management and keeping up, making sure that the clusters are well exposed, well separated, and so that there is good airflow, spray penetration, and so it's a little bit more challenging. But you know, I think there was the doubt that we could grow a Pinot Noir here. But you see, you taste the wines, and we are doing it.
You're doing, it's a beautiful, you're doing beautifully, in fact. And the rosé of Pinot Noir, I mean, it is such a classic. It has the classic Pinot Noir from Jory soil too. There's that sort of blackberry, berry, really jammy, really nice classic Pinot Noir flavors in the nice overtones of the rosé too. So I think it makes a difference. Really, it's so stunning to me, and it's always been so. The relationship, I love it, from you working on this vine and you planting these vines and shepherding them for quite since 1993, and then being able to taste this product now in 2021, and you've really got to shepherd it all the way up to this point, this vine, and you can really tell the difference in the quality of this rosé.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah, this is definitely going to be like a Georgia deck sipper for sure this summer.
Yeah, Georgia deck. I like that. I like
yeah.
that. I like that.
Yeah, and that I believe Ray and Brent, the rosé comes from younger plantings. We probably think plantings or vines that were planted in, I think in 2006, 2007.
Well, it still has, there's like strawberry and clover too. It's really nice fruit on the nose too. And I just see this definitely patio, don't you, Regina? Like,
oh, definitely. We do decks really big here in Georgia. So, yeah, it's definitely going to be on my deck this summer. This spring, like starting today. So
And
how
that
long
one,
is
that
this
wine is,
contact?
I would just throw out there, that wine is one of the nationally distributed wines. So that would be the first one. So that should be in Georgia.
Okay, so I'm going to find it tomorrow. I'll have it in next week.
oh my gosh, that's fun.
Absolutely. And we're going to throw it right on our tasting station. And we're going to talk about King Estate. This rosé is fantastic.
All right.
Thank you.
So how long of is the skin contact on this one? Because the pigment is really, really deep. I'm just curious how long you let the skins macerate with the must.
Yeah, it's a good question. So this, you can see in the color, it actually got quite a bit of skin contact time. So a lot of it depends on the year. So if it's if there's more kind of disease pressure, you don't want to let it sit on the skins too long because you'll actually pick up some off aromas. But in a really good vintage, which this one was, this is a 2016 vintage, so it's one of the better years we had on the property. You can get away with a little bit more. So it actually sat for 24 hours on the skins. Some years it'll be as little as, and a lot of years we're kind of right in the middle at 12. So it all came in basically as whole clusters. So 4 rosé went into the press. We kind of press it lightly once, just to liberate the juice in the skins, and then we let it sit. So they got 24 hours of press time, and then it's pressed off entirely at that point, and then fermented like a white wine. So you get a lot more of that kind of strawberry that you had mentioned, and then a little bit more of that kind of phenolic. They call it
yes,
agency, but in a good way, because it'll kind of carry the finish. It's a fun wine for sure.
Like a little candied note, almost.
Yes.
Not sweet in that way, but just that candy, cherry. It's really, really nice.
Yes.
And to Mel's point, they are from some newer plantings that are kind of up on the hill, Carrie, which you can probably see. So they're on the north end of our property up there. And so it's mountain blocks because they're kind of these higher elevation, younger Pinot plantings.
Right. Well, over on the south side.
It'd be behind you.
Oh, behind me. Okay.
Yeah.
I could just sit here for like 3 hours and stare at the view too. But
I know.
Very nice.
So they're over there. It's over there on the north side.
I'm kind of hating on you.
I know you are. I know. Well, next time you're going to be here.
Of course, September. I am so there.
Yeah, Regina is actually coming out for September, so we'll have to do take 2 with you guys and revisit in September during harvest, probably.
Yeah.
Given the climate these days.
Yeah.
Right.
That sounds great.
Yeah, that's bring a little bit of Georgia to Oregon.
Yep, I love it.
So everyone I taste, they're my new favorite. So now I have 3 new favorites, and I'm going on another 4 new favorite right now, right?
Yes.
So this 4th wine that we have right here is the Pinot Noir, the 7 Rose Pinot Noir, and this is definitely a story that I want to hear a little bit more about from Mel. I know he touched on that a little bit, but this was made by Justin King, the 3rd, as you all know, and I just discovered, Regina, that this is the 3rd generation in the King family to make this wine.
3rd generation, 30 years, right?
That's right. Isn't that cool? 3rd generation, 30 years. And I love that. I'm not just, I love the tenacious, resilience, just, like grapevines that, to come to this place that they really put so much attention with these vines to produce these wine, you can really tell. Mel, 7 Rows. You want to tell us about those 7 rows that Justin makes this Pinot Noir, and only from those 7 rows every year. Can you believe it, Regina? 7
That's
rows
amazing.
every year. Yeah.
Wow.
So, and Mel's out there with those rows a lot.
Yeah,
The
those 7 rows are planted on Jody soil, and we help maintain we help a little bit. I think with that vintage that you are tasting, I'm pretty sure that that Justin did most of the work. We were talking about earlier about how much work goes into growing grapevines, growing for quality. And we help, I think we help with mainly with tractor operations, like weeding and things like that, and spraying. But Justin and some of his friends, they came here and did a lot of the work. I'm sure, I know that they came, I think he must have done a lot of work himself. I saw his friends here when they were harvesting, because, harvest, it has to be done.
Yes.
When it has to be done, it has to be done. Mm-hmm. So he brought some friends and they got it done. Uh-huh. And so, yeah, he put a lot of effort into caring for those 7 rows.
So he's hands-on then. That's impressive.
Yes,
And you said you have a special relationship with Justin too, that he was one of the first people you met when you started working here, right? In the 90s? Yeah.
Yes, Yeah, he was we met at the shop, at that we came here for work. He was doing summer work.
Yeah.
But I think he was one of the first King family members that I met. Yeah. Okay. And then I think I know a lot of the family. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. That's nice. Wow. And you can tell it's a team effort. That's a nice connection for everybody.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And it shows in the wines, don't you think, Regina?
I think I think they're all just amazing. And I love this label.
There's a story behind that.
I'm anxious to hear about it.
Tell us a story.
So there's a story behind that label, in that we mark our rows and with tags, and they're actually, I think, cattle tags that they tag. I think were the original things that they were just made for, but a lot of people use them to put on the end posts of the row, so you know what block it is and what row it is. And so that's where the idea for the label came from, was just right off of the mark on the rows that he was taking care of. And that was a neat year in that Justin had kind of returned to the business shortly before that and moved back to Oregon, and he really wanted to, even though he was very knowledgeable from growing up around it, he really wanted to immerse himself in every aspect, from the growing of the grapes to the making of the wine. And so we designated that section for him, and he was in charge of taking care of it. And he was out there pruning and suckering and doing all the hand labor and harvest, and then he jumped right into the winery and did all the winemaking. And so it was a really neat project to be involved with, and he had so much fun that he's wanted to continue doing it every year since. So it was a neat endeavor.
Love that story.
Phenomenal.
Yep.
Yeah.
And now, Carrie, with that, I'm going to have to sign off. I hope I got you guys enough.
Thank you so much.
I have to run to a school play that I will be in much trouble if I'm late to.
Well,
We
go.
didn't get you in trouble, Ray, but we thank you so much for your
Thank
time.
you so much.
Thank
And
you. Thank you.
Regina, if you come out in September, I sure hope you come down to visit us.
I am definitely coming, and so I will see you in September then.
All right. Thank you.
See you, Ray.
Bye, Ray.
Bye, Ray.
Okay.
All right, so we have a muscat here for our final event, don't we?
Yes.
I cannot wait. This muscat, you wanna tell us a little bit about the muscat, Brent, and your thoughts on this beautiful. So it's got a nice dessert, the petite bottle, and
Very cute.
Yeah, absolutely. So
muscat.
we wanted a dessert option for our restaurant. So this is another kind of exclusive wine to, our wine club and our property and our restaurant. And we thought making this kind of like demi-sec type muscat would be awesome, because you can get all of the very lovely kind of aromatics that you get from muscat, which are appropriate a lot of times with a dessert wine, but then some sweetness to go with it too. So this is estate grown muscat. It's early muscat. We brought it in. It's all made biodynamically. So again, it's native fermentation, completely hands off. And then we just tasted it every single day through the course of maybe 30 days. Again, it's a real cool ferment. And then we started to just kind of chill it down, slow the fermentation down. And we just naturally stopped it when it hit the sweetness that we were targeting as a winemaking team. So, I think it's somewhere in like the 35 gram per liter type level. So it's not as sweet as like a traditional ice wine would be, but it's got enough in there along with the aromatics that it can be a fantastic option as a dessert wine. So
what was the bricks at harvest?
Bricks at harvest would have been probably 18, 19, something like that. It's a little bit lower just because it's early muscat, so it doesn't quite ripen as much as say like Pinot Noir would. And then you're in terms of grams per liter, you're all the way up around 200 at that point. And so we stop at around 35-ish, somewhere in there. So it's gonna be lower alcohol, higher RS. It's the only wine we make that's not dry, actually. So it kind of stands out in our lineup of estate wines.
But it's not too sweet. Maybe that early muscat really retains a real nice balance with the sweetness, and that muscat great again. I love it.
I do too.
Again, aromatics, don't you think, Regina? The aromatics.
It's beautiful. It's a perfect after dinner treat.
I see this definitely like vanilla ice cream and
with a little pastry, a little puff tart. Oh yeah.
Right.
Oh, I'm sorry, it went away.
That's right. That's right. You're gonna go get your pastry and your puff tart, right?
Yes.
Wow. All of these wines are so spectacular, and
they are really. And so a large part of what we do with Wine Sisters of the Vine, we talk about, diversity in this space and inclusiveness. So the question we would pose to you guys, so why do you think it is diversity and inclusiveness is important to your business or any business?
Yeah, so I can jump in on that. I mean, I think, wine has a reputation of maybe almost kind of taking itself too serious sometimes, and you exclude a whole group of people that otherwise would love your product, because this kind of like element of snobbery or whatever you want to call it. If you like wine, you have to belong to a certain group or class or something. And we have definitely been on the other end of that. And if you've ever met the family, you'll definitely understand. We want it to be inclusive. You know, we want everyone to come here and enjoy what we do, our products, everything else. And I think as an industry, Oregon has always been very open. You know, when you look at traditional barriers, you know, whether it be cooperation winery to winery or your workforce, I think we've been very, very open as an industry, and that's very much the culture here at King Estate. So that's what it should be too. You know, I mean, I think that that's the way to run a business, and certainly the way that we have done things here. You know, it's been very open. Again, kind of this idea that it shouldn't be an exclusive thing. You know, one should be enjoyed by all, and all should. Anyone who wants to partake in and growing grapes and making wine and everything else, we absolutely encourage that. You know, it's a wonderful profession, and you know,
It is.
We have a great relationship, I think, with a lot of the local universities. You know, where we get this a pretty good turnout every year in the form of interns and stuff, people that are interested to get into wine. I think once you actually experience it for yourself and you work a harvest, you know, it can be such a gratifying thing that people get the bug, you know, and you want to stay in the business, you know, and it's just making sure that people have the ability to even just to get started and to try, you know. So I think that's where you have to start, is just kind of break down some of those traditional barriers that have been in wine. But, Mel, I don't know what your thoughts are.
I just have to, like, you know, all what you say is I got to go with what, I mean, I think yes, what you say is good.
Well,
it's good.
You told me, Mel, too, and I really was impressed with this as a team overall, you know, that you have almost a family-like, you know, inclusiveness with each other and supportive, and that really shows.
It definitely comes through. I mean, I'm not even there where you are, Carrie.
Yeah,
hating on you a little bit, just still, just
I know,
but it definitely comes through in the wine. But it definitely comes through in this discussion, in this conversation. I think it's been a great discussion. I really have learned a ton about King Estates, and I cannot wait. Tomorrow, the first thing I'm going to do is get this little rosé in my shop. I cannot wait.
Awesome. Thank you for that. It's great.
Wow. It has been a pleasure to talk to the King Estate team, and always a pleasure to talk to my wine sister in Georgia, Regina. And
it's my pleasure to talk to you as well in Oregon. It looks so beautiful there today.
Well, you know, we'll do one more turnaround before the end of the episode, just so we can.
You just
viewers.
You're just rubbing it in now.
She's you see her? Do you see what she's doing here?
Look at that. Yeah, and there was the hawk that was flying by again. He was coming back for the episode, but I mean, yeah, this is just one other tough day at the office, you know, wrapping it up for all of us.
Okay. Yeah, Carrie, just stick that knife in, the serrated and twist it, won't you? But yes, thank you guys so much I know you guys are busy, and we are so excited to share all of the things that you guys are doing at King Estates. And I cannot wait to get this rosé in my shop. Literally, I cannot. We're doing a rosé all day. And I can't wait to have this as a part of that.
Awesome.
Yeah. So we're doing a virtual tasting. We do it every year. And as soon as I get this, I'm not going to do it until we get this one in.
Oh my gosh. And then you have to take a picture too, Regina, so we can put it.
Oh yeah, definitely. I will definitely, we Zoom, we've been doing virtuals, but this year I think we're safe enough to do it in-house. So we'll be streaming virtually and then in-house. So I can't wait until people discover this. It's lovely. I mean, all of them were lovely, but this rosé is fantastic.
Wow, this is a happy ending. So
yeah,
this has been a delightful story, and I love you like a sister, my wine sister.
Love you more.
And Brent and Mel, thank you so much, and the whole King Estate team, thank you for hosting the Wine Sisters episode today. It has been a delight, and your graciousness is much appreciated. So we are signing off from the Wine Sisters of the Vine. Cheers for change from King Estate. Goodbye,
Yes.
everybody.
Cheers.
Bye, guys. Thank you for having me.
Visiting.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Yeah, cheers. Okay.